Super Mario Galaxy 2 has an identity crisis. But it's the absolute opposite of the one original Galaxy had. Galaxy 2 knows precisely what kind of game it wants to be, but it's really not sure how it wants to package that up holistically as an experience. With some forgivable caveats, practically every issue I've mentioned in the first Super Mario Galaxy entry has been addressed. That's largely because instead of just prioritizing variety on its own, Galaxy 2 builds everything around Mario's moveset and Yoshi's when he's available, and how various challenges and obstacles recontextualize that moveset. This approach allows the game to build some exceptionally elegant levels, where new players won't feel overwhelmed by the challenge and would properly be eased into everything, while experienced users would be able to approach the same obstacles in a creative way. This is evident even in the very first proper level of the game, which teaches the basics of platforming by placing a bunch of cliffs of various heights, disappearing elevators, and rolling platforms. As a newbie, you will experience a set of carefully constructed obstacles. Here is an introduction to platform jumping. Now you have to learn to jump in a timed manner but in a safe space. Then you can train that skill up by trying to reach a question mark box. Then there's the same challenge but now with a bit of actual danger, followed by a breather and bookended with a sort of test of what you have learned so far. But all this is placed in such a way that if you're an experienced player, you can use the available moveset creatively to complete the same segment in a different way, not having to follow precisely the same footsteps. These principles are expanded further with power-ups. Galaxy 2 still reuses some power-ups that change the principles of how you play, like the B power-up or Spring one, but it puts more focus on new abilities that expand or recontextualize your existing movement. My favorite one is definitely the Cloud Flower, which gives you an ability to add up to 3 clouds beneath you when you spin. It's so broken, it's amazing. 3 clouds might not seem a lot to a newbie who would like to play it very safe, and again the levels are built with that in mind, but then as an experienced player you can do what feels like sequence breaks, it's awesome. The drill is another very cool power-up. The game uses it when it wants you to think about levels in a 3-dimensional manner, which is exceptionally fitting for round planets that I found were underutilized from gameplay perspective in Galaxy 1. Thanks to the drill, this is no longer the case, although that's not the only way the game promotes understanding of 3D space. And the other important power-up is the Rock one, which allows you to roll fast, increasing momentum and letting you crush obstacles you couldn't before. Which is also a great way to gradually teach about momentum, something you might remember I lamented Galaxy 1 didn't really do when it employed those kinds of challenges. And Galaxy 2 doesn't suddenly forget about it either. Momentum-based challenges are expanded with Yoshi levels that put in the dash pepper and skiing. And now that momentum-based movement is a recurring transferable skill, even though it still didn't come back as part of Mario's core moveset, but again that's fine in principle, it doesn't feel like skiing comes out of nowhere. And when you're introduced to it, the safe space is an entire frozen lake where you're free to roam as long as you need to get comfortable, not just some little ice ring. To take advantage of how Galaxy 2 approaches its challenge design and progression, it themes its galaxies and levels around certain obstacles. But just like the best parts of Super Mario Galaxy 1, these themes gradually build on top of one another. For example, the Flipsville Galaxy is all about flipping through grates to get on the other side. However, you flip by utilizing Ground Pound, which is a move that was widely explored in Puzzle Planet Galaxy, and you have to think about levels 3-dimensionally, which is something the Spin Dig Galaxy that introduces the drill would teach you about. Incidentally, the second star in Flipsville recontextualizes the constant flipping and reflipping concept with the drill in mind. Which is also how Galaxy 2 often tries to make the star choice be more distinct and make sense in the context of its structure by putting you in either actually different environments or old ones that had seen significant changes, not just some elements there and there. But even if you do replay existing levels to find hidden stars, and by the way some Lumas now want to eat coins to make collecting them more useful, or to find a Comet coin, which are usually placed on trickier spots as they're required to unlock the special star challenges, most of the time, thanks to this flexible approach to level design that allows experienced players to skip whole segments through skill mastery, it doesn't feel as annoying as it did in Galaxy 1. However, not everything is absolutely perfect. First, Galaxy 2 tends to like putting in segments and sometimes entire levels playable in 2D space. And that wouldn't really be a problem, except very often those segments don't take advantage of the principles we have discussed, being once again very linear and pretty rigid in nature, which makes them fine enough for a single playthrough, but on a replay, not really, gets kinda boring. Which wouldn't really be that big of an issue unless you're one of those people who enjoy Galaxy 2 enough to get 120 stars, since after you do, the game adds tons of green stars in all levels. And I think, as an idea, it's pretty awesome. Since you have collected all 120 stars by the time these green ones appear, this means that they can be put in very interesting places across levels for which you'll need to utilize all your skills. Except, even though multiple green stars are available in a level regardless of which one you choose in the menu, which is good, every time you collect a star, you are still forced out into the hub. And that is not great, especially in the case of those linear levels which you'll have to redo in almost exactly the same way over and over and over again. That's actually the reason why I eventually dropped the green star collection, as I found this aspect too tedious, despite finding their actual placement fitting. Just a simple prompt like some stars in Super Mario 64 had, if you'd like to keep playing, would do wonders to alleviate this issue. But regardless, I had tons of fun with Mario Galaxy 2, I was really hooked. And I'll be honest, because of the gameplay focus on world construction, for me there were far more memorable moments than in Galaxy 1. The magma lava slimes trying to eat you, the levels where lights turn on and off, the levels where everything is absolutely massive in size, the level where everything turns from lava to ice at a press of a button. It's all been just a lot of fun. Even the chimp challenges. I know the little guy tends to get some hate, and I do think the minimum scores you have to reach in his minigames are a bit too high, but I like them anyway. The thing is though, and this is where we get to what Mario Galaxy 2's identity crisis is, it all feels like a pretty disconnected collection of levels. More than that, many levels themselves feel like just a bunch of randomly floating objects, a feeling you might remember Galaxy 1 avoided. The story literally doesn't matter this time, and I guess that's fine, plus given the ending of Galaxy 1, it is sort of understandable why Galaxy 2 is almost a retread of the same concept, but a bit different. But the game doesn't do anything interesting with that. You travel on your Mario face ship, which by the way is a pretty amazing pun, and your face ship gets more populated as you progress. But why are all these characters joining you? Who knows? They're just there to give some gameplay hints and don't really matter. You unlock various worlds and travel between them, but galaxies inside are not connected in any way thematically or visually. Even on a basic level, World 2 has an absolutely stunning background, which by the way is very reminiscent of our solar system, but you won't see it in any of its courses. In fact, more often than not, you'll see a blue sky, which really diminishes the importance of the space theme. It's all very abstract. To put it this way, if we compare the haunted house levels between Galaxy 1 and 2, in Galaxy 1 it were very atmospheric, wholesome locations where what you do could feel like a random list of tasks. In Galaxy 2, what you do are very nicely connected challenges, which do have some striking imagery like platforming on a flipbook, that by the way is another really memorable moment that stuck with me, but also a lot of those challenges are just corridors floating in space because technically that's all you need for them to work. That's underwhelming. And yeah, sure, Mario Galaxy 2 levels are themed around obstacles, which is what makes the title so engaging from a gameplay perspective, but it doesn't have to come at the price of the atmosphere that Mario Galaxy 1 was so good at. So even though the game is still just as polished visually and has some amazing music, those elements aren't really working together to enhance the experience. So, in a weird twist of irony, Super Mario Galaxy 2 is also getting a Metacritic rating of 84. I personally enjoyed it more than Super Mario Galaxy 1. I had more fun with it, it's much more sensible in terms of how it builds upon the utilized design principles, and if in Galaxy 1 I had to force myself a bit to go through its overall structure, in Super Mario Galaxy 2 I just couldn't let go of the game, not until halfway through gathering the green stars, which are essentially post-game content anyway. But also, in terms of its overall style and atmosphere, Galaxy 2 is undeniably a weaker game. So which one you like more depends on what kind of identity crisis is more preferable for you.